In this video, I discussed the transition from console sim racer to PC sim racer. How much does it cost? What you all need? And is it worth it? Okay, so you want to transition from a console or being a console sim racer to a PC sim racer, which a lot of people think it is the next level, the step up, being from myself going from or having both console and PC. It is a step up, definitely, but you've also got to look at the cost, price to performance and stuff like that as well. So we'll go into this, obviously the breakdown and everything else. So we'll start off with what I usually say, but it's a bit hit and miss, depending on what you want, what sort of screen size it is. I say you've got to look at the price of obviously what you can afford for a PC, the factor of what resolution you're going to be running. Now, 9 times out of 10, and the same with me, when I came from a console and when I went to PC or got a PC, I was already running a 4K TV. Now, a lot of people that just say solely go to PC, they're probably not going to run a TV. They're probably going to run a monitor. So then a 4K monitor are quite expensive, and especially a good sized one. So I see why people do sort of go the TV route. But from the flip side of that, if you're looking to run 4K on a PC, then obviously the cost of that is going to be more than, say, running 1080p, running 1440p. I mean, a lot of people, say the esports players as well, they are more striving for the FPS on PC, and especially in driving games, it's the higher FPS you can get, not so much the graphical side, the all singing and dancing. So you've got to look, like I said, what you want or resolution you want to run, which will be a factor to the cost of the PC. So obviously, running, let's say for example, running a 4K panel or TV, you don't necessarily have to on PC run it at 4K. On consoles, most consoles are locked to 4K. I think PS5 and Xbox Series X, you can put them down to 1080p and obviously stretch or get more frames, i.e. the hertz, the refresh rate. But the problem is you're sacrificing graphics because you haven't got the advantage of the PC that you can adjust the graphics accordingly. So, i.e. you're running 4K, the graphics look quite sharp because you're running 4K. You then don't have to sort of up everything on it. You don't have to sort of do ultra for everything. Whereas 1080p, because you're squeezing more frames, because it's a lesser resolution, you can then sort of crank up the graphical side. So there's all these factors that play a part. So, but yeah, for this we're just going to go, you've got a 4K TV. I mean, I'm running a 42-inch, I think it is, which is a good size for me. I'm not sure if I could run slightly less, maybe a 32-inch if I was to go triple screen at some stage I want to do, but 42 is a nice size for me. And obviously if you were to go 42 in a monitor, it would cost you a good chunk of change. So especially if you're looking to go to PC, you've got to factor in, like I said, the PC itself. So going on you've got a 4K panel anyway from the console, so you're then looking at 1080p 1440. I wouldn't be running 4K unless you've got the finances there to get a PC that's got the graphics card. The main part of the PC to run your games really is your GPU. That is the be all and end all. Yes, your CPU does have a percentage effect, I would put it down to, of what frames you can squeeze. I mean, the word bottleneck and stuff like that is thrown around a lot in the PC community to do with your system, if your GPU's being bottlenecked or your CPU's being bottlenecked. But I don't want to go into that. I don't want to completely sort of open up this can of worms. I want to try and keep this video as sort of condensed as possible, not just going into every sort of bits and pieces. So the easiest way for me going on a system and the specs would be to look at my old system. Yes, I've upgraded, not to not by a massive amount. The graphics card, yes, I did. The CPU, I didn't. But I'm then at the end of my upgrade path for the motherboard that I'm on. Again, another sort of term that I don't really want to go into, and what motherboards you want, what sort of RAM speed and everything else. That's not, it is part of it, but it's not essential for this video. So my old system was a Ryzen 5800X, 32 gigs of DDR4, which is obviously the older RAM, which is cheap as chips now. I was running an RTX 3070 Ti GPU and an 850 watt power supply. Everything else goes hand in hand. You've got your M.2 drive, which is the sort of newer drives. They're not the old hard drives anymore. They're not the SSDs. They're called M.2s, which are the quicker storage devices basically in your computer. So really you want probably a 1 terabyte M.2. Then from that you might get extra storage, which could be an SSD. Even, I mean, I'm running 2 mechanical drives in mine. I'm running M.2 to run the installer Windows and the games that I want to be running at their sort of smoothest, at their best, because of the transfer rate. And then everything else storage wise is on the mechanical drives, which is fine. Yes, you are now starting to see a lot of the games, not just sim titles, but games in general, saying that the bare minimum is an SSD now, not the mechanical drive, because of the transfer rate of everything that's going on. So that's pretty much, like I said, what I had. Now we're going to have a look. We will have a look now actually on eBay, and we'll sort of run through it. So yeah, we'll have a look on eBay. And what I'm basically trying to say is that you don't have to go and buy a pre-built brand new. You still could, like I said, depending on your finances. That's probably your sort of best bet, unless you want to. That's the other thing as well. I built my computer. Some of my parts were new, some of them were second hand, and I built it because then I could choose the case I wanted and sort of get it how I wanted it to look. So you could still do that if you were to get, second hand parts, and sort of build it yourself, or like I said, buy a pre-owned. So let's have a look at, trying to spell it, there you go, I've already looked. Ryzen 5800X. We'll go to completed items, which is usually a good tell of what they sold for. So straight away, pretty much the same spec as what mine was. Got 2 terabyte hard drive, which is fine. So let's have a look into it actually. I was about to say not a bad price, but I sort of looked at the prices of what these are, parts and everything else, and if I'm honest with you, he's got a good price for this. So yeah, it doesn't say Windows 11, doesn't say how much or how old it is. So, but as this, so he's 1440p 4K gaming at a stretch 4K, I'd say, but you'd still have to adjust your settings in games. You'd have to turn down a few things. You couldn't run it at max, definitely not, because the 3070 Ti isn't. I said it's capable 1080p 1440p, not a problem. So, but yeah, to be fair, 750 is a good price for that. I'm sort of more looking around the. Let's have a look what I jotted down. I'm showing you everything that I've got now. Spelling mistakes, warts and all. So £500 to £600 is what I was sort of seeing for second hand. Nearer the sort of 900-ish for a pre-built that's actually been built with new parts. But then, see, the problem with that is, obviously, again, not to open up a can of worms, you could get a pre-built. The majority of, say, the 5800X, it's an old CPU now, so to try and get a new one and a new board and new RAM and everything else, I mean, there might be some components in there that are old, that are second hand. So, like I said, from my perspective, you probably want to be looking at second hand parts, to be fair, as long as it's from a reputable seller on eBay that's got a good few feedback. 100% positive really is what you want. Obviously you can go round and go and check parts. Just say that you want to see them working. Most of them will have them in a PC. or if you go around and get, like I says, a second-hand PC. And even with the second-hand PC side of it, you could always get the second-hand PC if you get it for a good price, and then get your own case and transfer everything over, and sort of have your own sort of custom built to your liking. So here's one. It's got the RTX 3060, which is obviously less than the 3070 Ti, but it's got a better processor. It's got the processor that I've got, the 5800X 3D, with a 3D V cache, which squeezes a few more frames out in sort of ACC and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a good price. So I mean, the problem is with, and again, making this video, I could be here for half an hour, 40 minutes, 50 minutes going into exactly what processors you need, or what's good, what's not, I mean, it just, as I said, because there's so much hardware out there for PCs, it can be a minefield, it can be a daunting task, which I think a lot of you guys have sort of looked at and thought, yeah, what am I doing? What am I looking at? I don't understand this, I don't understand that. So if we look from a perspective of, say, the Ryzen 7 5800X, it's an 8-core, it's an 8-core 16 thread, yeah. So it's an 8-core 16 thread. So basically, you really want, in this day and age, anything with 6 cores and above. I mean, a few years ago, it used to be you could get away with a 4-core 8 thread. I think it was sort of Intel, which I was running. But then the likes of ACC come out, and it just couldn't handle it, because it's quite a CPU demanding title. Not all of them are. Not all the sim titles are CPU demanding, but ACC was, and especially when you were to get on the bigger grids with more cars. So you really want, as a bare minimum in this day and age, a 6-core, and then whatever thread it'll be along with that. I don't know, it'll be 12 thread, was it? I think it's, yeah, looking at the sort of mathematical side of it, it sort of coincides with the double cores, double threads, or whatever the way they do it. So, but as I said, a 5800X 8-core, you've got no issue, 16 thread at all. So, like I said, this is why I'm looking at this. Yes, you could go Intel, definitely could, but I think the Ryzens of this era, of this generation, I think they pretty much trounced the Intels of the same generation, for gaming especially. AMD really sort of, yeah, hit the ground running when they brought out the Ryzen CPUs. So that's, like I said, what I would look at from that perspective. So then, yeah, what are you going to need? So, yeah, you're going to obviously need the PC. You're going to need a keyboard and mouse. They're just, yeah, it's what you need at the end of the day. Presuming you've got all your sim racing set up as well, that will then work on the PC. 9 times out of 10, your sim racing gear will usually be compatible with PC. 9 times out of 10, I mean, so look at my Fanatec, it's compatible with Xbox and PC. You've got the ones that are compatible with PS5 and PC. Majority of them are compatible with PC straight out the box, then compatible with obviously whatever console you've got. So then that's a savings that hopefully, yeah, you don't have to buy all new sim gear as well as the PC. So obviously with the PC, which I touched on this on another video, you can mix and match your sim racing gear. You don't have to have the same make wheelbase to pedals, which then makes life a little bit easier as well. But if you're like me and you want to switch back to console on a time, then yeah, you're stuck. So really you want to keep the same setup that you've got if it works on PC. So let's have a look what else you need. I think that, to be fair, that's pretty much it. Couple of new HDMIs, obviously, if you want to be running your console and your PC. So yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, that's all you need. There's no, like I said, it's not a massive, wouldn't say outlay, depending on, like I said, how people are fixed. Some people have got more money than others. Some people want to obviously go new. Some people don't mind second hand. Some people, so as I said, but from a sort of bare starting point from what I had, and as I said, mine ran fine, and I even streamed, as you guys know, on that setup, even running PC. Yes, I had to sacrifice when running, say, streaming PC games a little bit, but I ran most of my games at 1440p. If I was offline, weren't streaming and stuff like that, I'd crank it up to 4K, but then I'd obviously have to down the settings. But as I said, streaming and everything else, I mean, with console, if you stream console, it's a lot easier. It's not taxing really on your PC. But obviously, if you are PC gaming, you want to stream that, then obviously you've got to bear that in mind. So I think a sort of GPU that's a lot lesser than the 3070 Ti, then you might struggle, because in all fairness, the sort of software that you use, Streamlabs, OBS, and I think there's a couple of others, they do utilize the Nvidia graphics cards, whatever, something in them graphics cards that are better than, say, running the CPU, using your CPU. So that's, you've got to take into consideration. Obviously, if you're not streaming, it's fine, you don't have to worry about that at all. So, but as just a sort of side note as well, with that system spec, like I said, my old system spec, yes, I upgraded my CPU, but it was only to a 5800X 3D. But I also upgraded my graphics card, my GPU, to a 4080, which was the next generation up, which I saw massive gains. But you've got to look at it that I pretty much paid over the price of what you'd be looking for a second-hand system with a 3070 Ti just for a GPU. So, but it runs it fine. I'm not bottlenecked or anything like that. So it's a good sort of happy medium. So maybe if you have got a bit more fundage there, funds to get a PC, maybe look to sort of get the same CPU, but obviously upgrade the GPU side. So then you should be able to run 4K and sort of do it that way. Because obviously all the new AC Evo, being a prime example, it's not very well optimized at the minute, and it hammers graphics cards. And I must admit, it did hammer the 3070 Ti, whereas the 4080 just, it's so much better. I'm gaining so much. So it's factors to look into, but I wouldn't be too hung up on it now. If you just want to get into PC racing, get that PC and sort of get up and running, then at a later date look to upgrade. So is it worth making the jump? This is the big question. I feel it is still, but I also feel that the consoles are catching up. Now, as far as, say, sim titles and everything else, unless it's a Forza or a Gran Turismo or something along them lines, I mean, Project Motor Racing that's coming out is coming out on all three platforms at the same time. Most titles will always come out on PC first, so you've got to look at that factor as well. So that's a plus for the PC. You've got the third-party apps, Crew Chief being a big one. A lot of people use Crew Chief, and it's a free app that runs alongside whatever sim title you're running, and acts as a spotter, which is a more in-depth spotter than you'd have in your ACC and your LMU. So you've got that as well. You've got other little sort of hardware add-ons. People have little screens and stuff like that with a lot more information of what's going on in the car that you're driving and stuff like that. So that's a plus that console can't do. You've also got the factor of the tweaking, which in all fairness can be a bit of a pain in the backside sometimes when you're trying to get that happy medium, that sweet spot, and you've got all these drop down menus, these sliders and everything else, trying to work out what the hell they are and what they actually do. Fair enough, you can usually search online and there'll be guides or explanations of what each slider does. Some of the newer titles now actually have it. When you hover over the button, and it will say it will do this to the game, it will do that, it will make the sort of grass look better or whatever, the sharper detail. So there's that factor as well, that you can just change so much, whereas you're limited on console. I still like the console though, from a perspective of it being easier, from a perspective of just turning it on. This is the only downside I think with a PC. Once things start going wrong, or say you'll all of a sudden get a blue screen of death, as they call it, where your PC will just freeze with a blue screen on it and some writing saying that such and such failed, and then you're sort of scratching your head trying to work out what it is. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just an anomaly that's something's conflicted with something else, and it's just done that once and it will never do it again. Whereas 9 times out of 10, the console won't do that. It does what it says on the tin, so to speak. You turn it on, you boot up your game, and away you go. Probably why I still play on console as well as PC. But like I says, if you've got a PC that's running fine, you then won't have to sort of worry about that, so to speak. But just a sort of thing to throw in there as well. Like I said, the console is an easier platform to get into, an easier platform to just turn on, jump in and race. But the PC is the more in-depth platform. You've got probably, yeah, the better titles. You've got the titles that come out usually on PC first, in a beta, LMU, AC Evo and stuff like that. So yeah, from my perspective, I do think the jump is worth it, as long as you, like I said, can get a PC around your financial circumstances. I think we'll put it down to whatever you've got to spend, if you've got a set amount. I do think the jump is worth it, but I'd also, if you can afford it, keep the console as well, so you've got best of both worlds. So, but yeah, that's it really. It is a difficult one. It is a can of worms. You can go to sort of all extremes with it. I mean, you can really get lost in the technical side of PCs, and as I said, CPU speeds, RAM speeds and stuff like that. It can be quite daunting, but I think as long as you, obviously with like I say, yeah, a pre-built, whether it's new or second hand, like I says, you're usually okay. Or if you wanted to go and gather the parts yourself, look at these pre-builts and look at the specs in them, and then that will tell you what will run with what. But also most websites, say here in the UK, Scan, what's the other one, there's a couple of other sort of computer websites, they will actually tell you what's compatible, what motherboard is compatible with what CPU and stuff like that. So if you were to look at it that quickly, if you want to upgrade, you've also got to look, like with me, I'm at the end of my upgrade path. There is no other CPU on my motherboard, on my upgrade path, that will beat the one I've got. So I cannot upgrade now my CPU. For me to upgrade to get to the next generation of CPUs, I'm going to have to change the motherboard, the CPU and the RAM. So like I said, then it starts to get maybe a little bit more expensive. Don't get me wrong, I think a system like mine, and even with a 5800X non-3D, I think you'd be fine with for the next probably 5, 6, 7 years, I'd say, depending on the titles that are coming out. But as far as the CPU goes, as I said, I think you'd be fine. You'd probably need to upgrade your GPU, but that would be it. So as I said, but as I said, I didn't want to make, like I said, this video too in depth, because you can get lost in everything that goes on. I'm just going from the perspective of, like, this is what my system was, this is how much you can get it pre-owned. It's a system that will run everything fine right now. Maybe, yeah, upgrade the graphics card if you have got the funds to, and obviously, yeah, jobs are good at the end of the day. So, but yeah, again, hope you found it informative. Bit of a long-winded, I sort of tried to not go off on a tangent with anything, but tried to add or put in the stuff that's relevant. Anyone that needs any more information, if you are scratching your head or a bit lost to do with going over to PC, let me know in the comment section below. Any information that I've missed out as well, definitely put it in the comments for people that, as I said, are looking to make that jump. But as I said, bottom line is I do think it is worth the jump. PC is superior. It still is superior. Yes, consoles are catching up, but I just don't think that, well, I don't know, I can't see into the future, but as far as the adjustability and everything else you can do on a PC, I just don't see the consoles having that side of it anytime soon. So yeah, definitely worth a look, definitely worth to, if you're looking seriously enough to jump over, that's for sure. But yeah, anyway guys, gonna go, and thank you for watching the video, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.